How you doing? This is Ivan from Bitesize Wisdom for Busy People, and I just want to thank you for joining me here again today. And I want to share another idea to help you live a more happy, more conscious life. And today's topic is on the art of listening, because I think this is something that we all need to work on, because many of us in our modern day, many of us live in cities, and as a result of these lifestyles and because of technology, many of our senses have become extremely dull, I feel, which is always a good reason to get back into nature. If you can get back into nature, you'll notice that naturally your senses become more alive. And just think about, our forefathers, when hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, how much sharper their senses needed to be, because their survival depended on it. If they couldn't see out into the distance clear, or if their listening was poor, that could mean life or death for them. But now, our lives have become extremely comfortable. I think many of us don't even realize that we can sharpen our senses or work to make them better, or even that we can use them in new ways. So today, what I want to share is just learning to listen simply, because how many of us listen, we listen through our past, through our conditionings, where we listen to only what we want to hear. If we're having a conversation with someone, sometimes we're already in the future, already listening with the end in mind, and this is not really listening. Many of us are just hearing a person talk, but since we're so preoccupied with what we're feeling or thinking, most of the communication is not even received, and there's no real relationship going on. So we need to learn to just simply taking in that auditory data in a simple way, which means that we need to become extremely receptive. So if you've seen some of my videos already, you'll notice that I have a certain theme, which is always about finding that inner quietness, that stillness inside. So that's what we want to do. We want to become a very passive, alert witness to our inner world. And maybe a helpful example could be if you think about just like a deer in the forest, and they're chewing on some grass, and then if they hear any little noise, immediately they become so alert and still. So I think that's a good example of kind of the inner experience of being in that a passive alert state. So learning to stand beside yourself in your inner space. What does that mean? That means standing beside your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and just finding that utterly still place. Because from this place, this is a place that's open and receptive. And if you can find that place within you, and then from there, move your attention to just your auditory sense, then you will just take in the data unfiltered, without having that screen of your thoughts come between just that sensory data and your thoughts and feelings, because our senses are basically tentacles for our consciousness. They're the interface that interprets all this external data. So depending on how refined or how developed your senses are, it will give you a completely different view of the world. So what we're trying to do now is improve our listening so that we get a new experience of the world, and potentially it can help us have an inner transformation just through the sheer act of listening. Because when you get in that highly receptive state and you listen in this way, you'll notice that something's happening within you. I don't want to completely give it to you, because I want you to discover these things on your own. But also with the sounds, you'll see that you can get into a state where, by taking in that data unfiltered that way, you'll be able to see that you gain a certain energy that can help you become even more alert and more aware. So if you can, find a park bench or go out into nature and find a nice place where you could just sit down in a comfortable position and just take in all the sounds around you. Just close your eyes, find that inner stillness. If you need to, you can do, if you know some full body relaxation methods, or through your breathing, learning just to breathe in a deep rhythmic way for a few minutes and just find that inner quietness first. And then from that place, just take in all the sounds in a simple way. What I mean by that is, like I mentioned earlier, don't try to interpret anything that you're hearing. So if you hear a dog off in the background, don't be like, oh, immediately, oh, what kind of dog is that? Oh, I wonder if my dog's okay at home. So no interpretation. You're just taking it in unfiltered. You're just giving your full attention just to the act of listening. And make your own discoveries. Okay, let's see what you discover by doing this, and also play around with it. So if you'll see that the whole world comes alive, then when you close your eyes, you're immediately going to shut off, like, let's say 80% of your sensory data. Our visual senses very predominant. So now by just focusing on your hearing, you'll see that you'll hear sounds that you weren't even aware of just a few minutes ago. And then you play around with it. Be all encompassing as you take in all the sounds, but also if there's a sound that comes to the foreground, put your attention on just that sound and just listen to it simply. And then when you're finished with that, move on to the next sound that's maybe come into the foreground, and play around like that, or just have your open attention where it's just all encompassing, and see what you discover. And maybe what you'll discover as you develop the skill of learning to put aside your thinking process and your conditionings and just finding that inner stillness inside you and listening from that place, you'll see that it transforms just your normal day-to-day communications. You'll see that maybe you're able to go beyond the words that people are using to catch additional or deeper meaning to what they're trying to convey. Like say also, if you're outside in nature and you hear a bird chirping, maybe you'll really, as the sounds enter your inner space, you'll really be able to capture the energy and maybe even feel like a very, very intimate, direct relationship with the bird. That's something that I love to do. And also, when I was in my early 20s, I used to live in Prague. And around Prague, one thing I loved is that there was just hundreds of park benches all around the city. And I would just love to just pick a park bench in a new neighborhood and just people watch for a while. And then, just close my eyes and just take in all the sounds. And I would just spend hours there. And it was just, a very beautiful time in my life. So I encourage you to get out into the world and try to listen in this way that I spoke of, and see how it transforms your experience. Maybe you'll see that you haven't really you've never really listened in this way before. It's been a while. And like I mentioned, this can also be a tool used for inner growth. The world is always trying to wake us up, and now with listening, it could be another tool for you to wake yourself up and to make a inner and outer discovery that can potentially change your life and just your experience of the world. Because as you refine your senses, you'll see that your how you perceive the world will change in a more, how can I say, well, yeah, you'll just gain additional insight and be able to penetrate and go beyond the veil of our senses sometimes. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. Like I said, when I think of an idea or a topic, I just like to share it with you guys, and I don't script whatever I'm going to say. So I apologize if sometimes it takes me a little bit to get to the main point or topic that I was trying to make. So I hope you guys are doing great. Take care, and if you enjoy my content, please share with anyone that you think will find it valuable, and subscribe and hit that little notification bell so whenever I release new content, you'll be the first to know. And take care and peace.